Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of In the Eyes of Truth. Today, our guest is Lorenzo Pacini. I hope I pronounced it correctly and didn't butcher it. Uh, Lorenzo is a associate professor of political philosophy and geopolitics in the University of Dolmoti in Belluno, Italy.
Hey there, entrepreneurs. Are you feeling the squeeze from increasing regulations and higher taxes? Maybe you've noticed the growing instability and thought there has to be a better way. Well, you're not alone, and that's exactly why you need to consider offshoring your wealth now. Imagine a life where your hard-earned money isn't constantly under threat from unpredictable government policies. Sounds pretty good, right? Let me tell you. It's not just a dream, it's a smart strategy. Here at Exit Strategy, we specialize in helping entrepreneurs like you protect and grow their wealth. We navigate the complex world of international finance so you don't have to, from setting up offshore accounts to advising on the best countries with favorable tax laws. We've got you covered. Now, I know what you're thinking. Offshoring sounds risky, maybe even a bit shady, but the truth is many savvy business owners are already doing it. It's not just about dodging taxes, it's about creating a safety net for your future. Imagine diversifying your assets across multiple jurisdictions. When one country faces economic downturns, your wealth remains secure. Think of it as an insurance policy against the uncertainties of life. And let's not forget, having a portion of your wealth offshore can open up opportunities for international investments. You're no longer limited by the economic climate of a single country. You can tap into booming markets around the world, maximizing your returns. But here's the kicker. Time is of the essence. With increasing global scrutiny and tightening regulations, the window for easy offshoring is closing fast. The sooner you act, the better positioned you'll be. So why wait? Protect your wealth, secure your future, and explore new opportunities with Exit Strategy. Don't let the rising dangers in the US economy catch you off guard. Reach out to us today and take the first step towards financial freedom. Because when it comes to your wealth, playing it safe is the riskiest move of all. Thanks for watching, and remember, your future starts with the decisions you make today. Choose wisely, choose Exit Strategy. Catch you in the next video.
And it's been a while since I've been in Italy. 2018, I think, was the last time I was in Italy. Yeah, 2018. So in the up in Milano.
Great. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
inviting me.
Thank you. So tell us a little about yourself, and let's discuss what's going on in Italy these days. It's not
Yeah.
hitting the news as much, except Meloni seems to have actually started to get worried about World War III. But other than that,
Yeah, I do. The situation is the following one. We have to just give a little frame of what is going on because the actual situation pretty started to be prepared almost 35 years ago. What do I mean? As you know, and for people who don't know, it's very important information. Italy is actually under a military occupation by the United States of America since 1945. That means since the liberation from the fascists during World War II. Because since that moment, the Americans never left Italy. So we still have more than 120 military bases, American military bases, actually more
120?
than the bases. Yeah, it's really a lot. It's really a lot.
Oh, I
And
didn't
these are
realize it was
only
that many.
the official basis.
Hmm.
Okay, so since that moment, all politics in Italy has been influenced by the Americans. If you consider that the CIA headquarters in Italy, it's just inside of the building of the house of the President of the Republic. So that means really a so direct contact and influence. So Meloni, she comes from a kind of political education, let me say. She's from a generation of politicians that is actually the third one after World War II. So after the birth of the Italian Republic in 1948. And the first generation, they were, all style politicians, really good status, really good high level people. Second generation, they were already, entering in a kind of political schools, I mean, ideologically, that were mostly concentrated in a kind of how to let Europe, to create Europe, a kind of Europe that should be in the model of the United States, just called as United States of Europe. And this third generation is the farthest from the old generation of politicians, because the old one, they were still thinking in a sovereignist way. They were still thinking about the national interest. Meloni, she is a perfect product of the system. Even if we like, don't like her, doesn't matter. She comes from a generation that has been prepared to serve foreign owners, foreign leaders, and that means to bring the nation, bring Italy, in a condition of totally slavery of other countries. And this doesn't matter if you are from right wing or left wing, okay? That's their generation. We have the same with the, let me say antagonist, because she's not so antagonist, Elish Line, that is from the Dem party, but she's pretty the same. They always agree in the most of topics, just on LGBTQs and something about family and traditional values, but nothing else. Pretty the same in everything. They are liberal. They obey to Israel and Washington. They have an incredible devotion to the Britain crown, and most of all, they promise something during the political run, and then they do exactly the opposite. This has been the same with Meloni. What we see now,
Yeah, I was going to
Stanislas, is
say,
that
Maloney came in on some very conservative promises of sovereignty.
seems so. Let me explain. Actually, she comes from a very old. She's born in the old right party
Hmm.
that was not an extremist one. Was like a conservative party. Okay, that was the evolution of the old fascist party that became it was called MSI, that was Italian Social Movement, okay?
Hmm.
This movement has been very important, has been the main right party for almost 50 years, until the 90s. And she started her career just at the end of that party. It was 1994, 1997, okay? And that moment she was rising because of Silvio Berlusconi, that everybody remembers, Russia is very famous. He was close friend of Putin. And since that
Very
moment,
colorful politician.
yeah, there
Very
was,
colorful.
we should say, many Italians nowadays, when they look to Donald Trump, they see just the American Berlusconi, because they were entrepreneur. Yeah, it was, businessmen that they were doing their business, using politics for their business, and that they were using the businessman style in politics. That is actually a little bit different than being politicians, just, coming from the political school of ideologies. So Meloni, she came from this kind of centered right party, and she was inside of the MSI from the side that was more progressist, not the most conservative one. And after that period, she started to rise, following, surfing on the waves, depending by the political climate that was rising. And for almost 15 years, she disappeared completely. She was, acting underground. And she came back to the run for politics just with the last elections. And what was incredible is, this so fast growth of her party, Fratelli d'Italia, that means Brothers of Italy. Because it was a little party with less than the 3%er, and now it's the biggest one in Italy for numbers, for followers, supporters, etc. And it's so interesting because during the last elections, Stanislav, we have to calculate that for numbers, there was the biggest abstention by the vote in the history of Italy. So Meloni, mathematics is not an opinion, Meloni has been voted only by one Italian on 10th. That means, this is not a kind of government, if we follow democratic, criteria, she's not the expression of the people's will, but she's the prime minister. And since she entered in the game of politics, of institutional politics, and was her first experience, she's never been minister of anything else before. She literally were running till the presidency, and this was something very, very unique in the history, okay? Because she was not involved in anything else.
Well,
Seems like she has been prepared for this.
your neighbor had it even worse. Macron had absolutely zero political history before he becomes president of the
Yeah,
Fifth Republic, Sixth Republic. What I'm not quite sure what number they're on. Right? Fifth, I think. Yeah,
yeah, it is. It is.
yeah.
No, what is interesting, Stanislaw, is that now she is acting, let me say, half and half on two positions that are going in two different sides, two different directions. The one, she is the friend of London. So she's always ready to, to pay her devotion to the crown. We have seen that just a few days ago, where the King Charles I, and he came to Italy and he was speaking to the parliament with the two chambers united. Was the first time in history something happened like that. That a foreign leader, a foreign governor were coming and, acting like he was doing it in his colony, in the Commonwealth, for example. Okay, was exactly the same political liturgy and communication. And on the other side, she is so close friend to the Americans. Her first trip immediately the day after the election was in Washington. And as we know, she had this kind of, close relation with Elon Musk, that now is
Hmm.
the Doge leader. And she spent very good times with Donald Trump, for what we know. And every time she came back from the US, she was trying, to take a kind of little bit more of sovereignty. But in the European context, with the European Union, she's always, always, always following the direction dictated by Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Parliament Commission. And that is a direct expression of the political will of France, economical will of Germany, and upper class power of Great Britain. That's why Meloni seems like she's a bunch of contradictions in this moment. So most of the people don't know what will be next, because we have, by one side, sometimes one day she is fighting against this idea of the rearm. That is a good idea, to try to stay apart from this completely foolish decision of trying to manage a war against Russia. It's an idiotic, completely idiotic solution. And on the other side, she was signing a contract to help Ukraine for 10 years. We still have 9 years to pay money and tanks and soldiers to Ukraine to win the war against Moscow. That's
Um,
weird.
One question. So there is no poverty in Italy. The economy is booming. Everything's great, and you just have free money to give away to the narco Green Goblin. No?
You know, uh, this is something very sad, so sad. Um, one third, okay, of the Italian population has problems to arrive till the end of the month with the salary. You know what does it means?
Oh yeah.
That poverty is growing so fast. And I mean, Italy until 1995 was the fourth power of the world. And now after 30 years, we are like, one of the lowest GDP countries of the world. We still have lots of creativity. We still have people loves us, everywhere. The problem is that we had this politics that was destroying. Imagine that we had for 14 years technical governments imposed by Strasbourg and Brussels, and we didn't have elections. Me, I remember when I got my vote card, I couldn't use it because we were having, every 6 months, new prime ministers and presidents, decided by a foreign agency, actually.
Just like the
So this is
Greeks.
still actually going. Yeah, it's the same. The economy is the same. Our previous currency was lira. Lira has been defined by the economists. I'm not an economist, okay? But if you read some books or you listen to some podcasts and videos, there are lots of experts in the whole world, not from Italy, okay? I'm talking about foreigners.
Hmm.
But what said that lira was one of the safest currencies of the world for how it was set, with real assets managed by the central bank. So first thing they did, they destroyed the central bank. Central bank of Italy doesn't exist anymore. First. Second, they entered the euro. You know, euro was created by an Italian, Romano Prodi, that has been prime minister a couple of times. He was the antagonist of Berlusconi. And there is this famous quote by Romano Prodi that was, with the euro, you will work one day less and you will gain like one day more.
Yeah,
So,
right.
people, were thinking to euro like, wow, that's incredible. It works. I still remember this, the exchange in euro, the swap with euro and lira was €1 was valuating like 2 liras. So actually it was the double. And I still remember then I was going with, I was young. It was 2001, 2002. And I was working with my mom, going to the shops, and watching people, the owners, canceling the old price in liras and writing beside the same price in euro.
That's what I
That
heard from a
means
lot
that
of
in
people. Yeah,
five
Germany too.
seconds they double the cost of life.
Yep.
But in Italy, we don't have salaries growing since 1992.
Oof.
Okay. So can you imagine what happened during this period, this more than 30 years?
Yeah.
That slowly, they were uh, you know, destroying completely Italian financial system. And so now that we are approaching to this international context, first of all, it's so embarrassing that we are completely missing what's happening in the rest of the world. Because of my job, I often travel abroad, and especially going to Asia, Eastern Asia, or Southeast Asia. They are so interested. They know, oh, you are Italian, Italy, how beautiful, blah blah blah. And then the first question they do is, why are you deciding to suicide yourself?
Yeah. Well, you can ask quite a
Why
few Asian
aren't you?
countries the same
Yeah, but
thing.
it's a proper question. And I look to
Yeah.
them, why aren't you doing a revolution? Why are you missing the switch to a multipolar world and you are isolating yourself in your little world of the old continent and the rest of the world is going on? And it's so embarrassing, sometimes it's so sad because I look to them and I say, guys, you're right. Please, shame on me, it's so embarrassing. Because how can you defend this kind of things? It's impossible. I can only say that's the truth. We are in this condition that the people that have been educated to, to admit everything. Italians are following a criteria that has been that was sentenced by the ancient Romans, ancient Latins, from Cicerone. Uh, Cicerone used to say Italians were not Italians, but Romans need panem et circensem. That means food and fun. When you give food and fun, you have everything. So, in
Bread and
Italian,
circuses.
yeah, just give us spritz for the appetizer and some football, and it's enough. And political issues, economical troubles, yeah, we will think about it later. But later, then the time arrives. And now we have to count in front of our conscience what's going on. And it's so late for most of them. It's so late. 1/3 of population, 30% of population is approaching to poverty. This is crazy. It's a symptom, Stanislav, in my opinion, of this huge disastrous decadence of the West.
Oh,
And you can find the responsibility only in ourselves, because yeah, it owes to us to decide to revolt against the stupidity of those leaders that are destroying the country. Um, it's up to us to, to to switch this system. But Italians have never been a people of revolutions. That's an historical fact. And philosophically, if I think about it, the fact is that they have destroyed that so much the political thought, and we don't have anymore any political schools. I mean, ideological. We don't have political ideas, good things, new wind, fresh air, nothing. That really, left or right, you still have this psychological dichotomy, and all the rest is a joke. So
okay,
yeah, you have Meloni doing a government with the Dems, a
okay.
conservative right party with
I
the left one.
I understand the political, and I can understand even economic. If you're not in poverty, there's a good Russian joke, or I don't know if it's Russian or not originally. What's the difference between recession and depression? Recession is when you see it on television. Depression is when you lose your job,
Ah,
right? So people that aren't affected, they may not say, okay, that's not a big thing. But what about the demographic slash
ah,
racial suicide in Italy? Look, in 2008, I organized in Milano a conference for our European suppliers. I was working for a company called Cameron International out of Houston with lots of European suppliers, Russian suppliers I was developing. That's one thing. So, and me and my wife, we went, after behind the Castello, between the Arc de Triomphe and the
yeah,
Castello, there's the nice big forest park. Everything's nice. Skip forward 2016. I'm working for Technomont, Maria Technomont, which is a EPC construction company, engineering, procurement, construction technical company, and I was a director of supply chain on the big construction projects. So they brought me in to Milano on and off. And I remember, okay, I walked all over Milano the first week. I went to all the museums. I'd seen a bunch of them before. So like, okay, what? I'm bored. It's Sunday. What am I gonna do? Oh, it's raining a little bit. Oh, in 2008, Arc de Triomphe was under reconstruction. I'll go see the Arc de Triomphe.
yeah,
So I walk out and I walk past the Castello and I walk into the park, and there's still Italians on the edge of the park. And I walk into the park, and every piece of, well, between all the roads, all the little meadow areas, there's three, four Africans. They're all
yeah,
speaking French or English, so they're obviously not from any former Italian colonies. And you get that, and you get that feeling. I'm the gazelle, they're the hyenas. They're all staring at me.
yeah.
So,
That's a perception. Yeah, I
but I'm
know.
I'm a Russian. I put the keys in my fist and I walk right through the middle of them. First one comes at me, I'll just beat the crap out of them. They left me alone. On the way back, I walked around. It was evening. I wasn't gonna go through the park in the evening. It wasn't that crazy. The
Yeah,
next day,
disaster.
the next day, I go into the office and I speak to one of my coworkers. I'm like, "Look, what the hell happened? You went to the park?" Like, yeah, Italians don't go to parks anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
it's yes, it's true. That's
yeah,
it.
and I
So
asked him,
you see,
yeah, I know. I'm getting that because I didn't see any Italians. Why? He's like, Stas, you're a foreigner. You can ask the question why. I am an Italian. If I ask why, I'm a racist and they fire me.
yeah, exactly, exactly. That's a fucking politically correct censorship. That's it. The situation is worse now, Stanislav. It's really worse. Imagine that in Milan, you have to be worried if you arrive with the train to the central station. That it's exactly the heart of Milan, in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
perfect center. Nowadays, there are like battles between police that cannot do anything. They can't do anything. They can't arrest them, they can't hit them, they can't, of course, fight with firearms. And that those immigrated mostly illegally, they ruled the region. And not only in Milan, but pretty everywhere in Italy. And this is something, Meloni, it's so interesting. The government of Meloni has the record of importing of immigrants.
Really? Because her
Yeah,
position
it
was
is.
just the opposite. Get rid of them all.
No, yeah, this is really political demagogy. In the last 25 years, 2025, okay, 25 years, the governments that declared that they would like to have more and more, open the doors, open the gates, let all people coming from Africa, doesn't depend where, from Southeast, Middle East, doesn't matter. Immigration. Mostly, I repeat, illegal immigration. They were from the left. But who really does these politics is always the right. And you have data to check
Oh,
this.
yeah, yeah.
So
Tories.
Meloni, just in the first year of her government, this is the second and a half, she got the record. She reached the record of immigrants, opening all to all of them to come. And this is a big problem if you have problems of integration, cultural and religious integration by one side. On the other side, we have a huge problem, demographic problem. Italians don't have children. They
Yeah,
don't do
I know.
children.
Yeah.
The medium when I was young, it was 1.3 children per family. Now it's 1.1 in just 10, 15 years.
So in 20 years, you get half the population, basically.
Yeah, but the problem is that still now we don't have this, switch of generations because honestly, if you don't have future here, your options are or you accept to live a life in a kind of poverty, political issues, troubles every day, or you run away. And many good people, many good brains, intelligent people are literally running away from Italy. So they look somewhere around Europe, but also the myth of Europe with the Erasmus programs, cultural exchanges, this kind of multicultural European citizenship has failed completely. Nobody cares more about that because we have other countries in Europe that are in the same situation. Like
Yeah.
if you go in France or in Germany, or in Sweden. Sweden, the most common name is African.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first surname is African. So we have a problem. We have a real problem.
Yeah.
And this real problem is that if you want, and the economical, tragical situation is pretty the same in the whole Europe. So you need to escape from this cage. And so you look for other countries. But we have a kind of informational warfare that is perfectly made to draw and paint over countries like the evil, like a mess, like nothing is working, like they are dictatorships, like blah 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 blah. Okay, just to let people think that you are in the best of the possible worlds. Please stay here. Yeah, you have no freedom. You cannot say what you think. Your values are dangerous. You have no money to live. And this is a real, low intensity but high density warfare, internal, domestic warfare. But yeah, it's good, outside it's worse. So why to go to Russia, where there is a dictator Putin that is oppressing people? Why to go to China, that they are like the evil, embodied, and so they are ready to eat you because of communism? Why? That's it. Why to look to Africa, for example? I was talking a couple of days ago with a friend of mine who was, involved in politics, and I was like, yeah, because I would like to visit a couple of countries in Africa. I'm planning the trip with the university. Oh, Africa. But do they have electricity there? And I was like, man, the countries I will visit, they also have nuclear power that we don't have. And we
Well,
are buying all the energy by other countries. And you know, I'm embarrassed to say that they are more free and, evolved than us in this moment. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but This is racism,
Yeah.
this kind of politically
Well, wait a
correct.
minute. There's a lot of truth to that, though. A lot of African countries don't have nuclear power. They don't have electricity, and it's done on purpose by countries like
Yeah,
France, because then they can take the raw resources, and those countries can't reprocess the raw resource. They can't move up the value chain, which is
yeah.
why those
The
revolutions that
global
kicked out the
south
French,
rising.
yeah,
Yeah.
the countries that kicked out the French, one of the reasons the French, Macron and all hate Russia so much is we came in and said, "Hey, we'll build you a nuclear power plant. Yeah, we'll of course make money off of it, but we'll build you. You don't need to sell this to France or whatever. You can process it here at home, and you'll have
France
electricity."
is in a big, huge crisis because they are losing the CFA currency that was actually the main income of
Yeah,
France.
yeah,
And so losing very power on the colonies,
yeah,
they are collapsing. Do you see France has no government, prime minister, they are switching every 3 months.
yeah,
They have totally political instability, and only because Macron is still there, so they are, living, but nothing else. By
yeah.
themselves, they are in a kind of crisis. If you go to the cities of France, you find a disaster.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Ethnically, you have no more French people. You just need to go to some, little villages or in the north. If you want to find some French people, that means European, for ethnies. For the rest, it's North Africa. I
yeah,
mean, it's not a problem. I mean, I don't have any problems in many African people, but the point is that this is the effect of those politics.
yeah, yeah,
And now we are living and we are feeding ourselves with the consequence of that. And for some kind of things, it's too late. Because what to do? Now, if you want to calculate, I have a friend of mine who is a statistics, and he was telling me a couple of weeks ago, we would need to, balance the process because they come from their countries, they don't integrate mostly, but they do 3, 4, 5, 6 children per family.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
would need to stop them to remain this same range and to do almost 5 children per family since today till the next 25 years just to balance the situation. What does it mean? That, man, couple of years and the switch, 5 years, the switch will
mhm,
be over.
yeah,
And this is a problem because this means, and it's natural, that the political representatives of that will have a weight.
yeah.
It will have a weight. It will have a
Of
weight in
course.
political decision, in political values, in the international relations with other countries. And that's a fact. That's a fact that in Italy we still have the same problem. A couple of weeks ago there was this scandal, but in my opinion it's not a scandal. It's the most logic consequence of what happened. There is the first mayor of a city that is African. Okay, coming from Africa. He got citizenship working in
Mm.
Italy, so it is an Italian citizen, but he comes from Africa. He was born in Africa. He's Muslim. And so can you imagine this little village, all the people Catholics, so for, oh my God, it's not Christian, not same values, it's from Africa, it's not from here. But man, that's democracy.
Yeah,
You have, and someone voted him. So this means that now you are, I repeat, getting what you have seminated for long. That's your
yeah.
harvest. That's it.
Well, look at
And this means,
look at England. Look at England.
yeah, it's England. I mean,
England, the
England
cities
has
are
been
ghettos. They're
yeah,
destroyed. They're economically destroyed.
the
They're culturally
mayor,
destroyed.
the prime ministers coming from India. We had Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, yeah,
It's completely normal. But the point is, so is there a plan behind of that or what is happening? Because we see this in all Europe, and this is destabilizing a lot. And if you look to the future and you say, okay, which kind of world would Italy I would like to live in? Something so unbalanced, something so problematic, something so chaotic, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Because when there will be the switch and the numbers will change, would be completely legitimate to decide to impose different values, different culture, different language, different religion. That's a fact. And this is what actually many European countries have done
Hmm.
against African countries for so long, for
Yeah,
centuries.
yeah.
This is the answer. It's karma, you know. It's turning, perfectly turning. It's divine justice that is
Hmm.
showing them that if if you have done that, now you get your consequences of your actions. So, for example, government of Meloni, okay, I told you, record of immigrants coming and never discussed about politics for immigration. But
Hmm.
politics for immigration was one of the main topics during the run.
You,
Curious, you
you
know,
know,
that
if you look at Plato, let's go back historically. Plato's Republic. Well, the Republic was not a good form of government. But if you notice, from the people rises tyrants. But the tyrants like foreigners because they can import foreigners. They improve their life a little bit, and the foreigner is loyal to them, to the tyrant. While the people go, well, wait a minute, you're supposed to have been saving us and making us better, and instead you're robbing us. We don't like you. But here's the foreigner who's going to enforce my will on you. So if you look at it from that point of view, we see that in all of Western Europe now, from these elites that
exactly.
are coming to save the people, but really they're just coming to fill their pockets, rule over the people, and bring in a bunch of foreigners.
That's it. That's it. Italy forgot a lot. Has forgotten a lot of what has been the great teachings that we had by the past, by the thinkers, by the great politicians, the leaders, the emperors, the kings. This has been completely forgotten. I must say that honestly, because we had genius, genius. We had a bunch of genius that taught politics in the whole world, and it seems like we never, had developed our own political view, and that's so sad because, yeah, when I think to Plato, and I imagine how could be great Italy today, how could approach in a multipolar world, being, these geographical processes in the Mediterranean Sea, so leading the connection between the south of Europe and Africa and Middle East, controlling as a mid-ocean power an entire sea that is the heart of the connection between two continents, three continents if we consider the extension of Eurasia, and that's so sad because we are really missing, uh, let me say, our original vocation,
Yeah.
to our greatness, and that's something that I don't think it can be solved just copying a kind of American purpose. We had at the beginning of the new presidency of Donald Trump this provocation by Elon Musk, mega, make Europe great again. Okay, so cool. Yeah, it's communication, but the point is that in Europe they managed an entire European meeting about that by all the conservatives, right parties. And you know what was crazy? That they were suggesting to make Europe great again, just improving European Union. But actually has been the final cut, the final uh, punch in the stomach, in the face of all European peoples.
Well,
And when they talk about, yeah,
the problem is the diametric of communist versus
it
capitalist,
is.
liberal versus the real diametric is between globalist and localist or national. The
Yeah.
one that says my nation, my country, we'll figure it out ourselves versus no, we're the overlords and you're the peasants and we'll tell you what to do
Yeah,
from
which no, we,
Brussels.
we had many thinkers around in the 20th century, for example, that were theorizing a Europe of the European peoples and not made up, not created, copying a format made by someone else that
Yeah.
is 7,000 kilometers away. And this should be natural, I think. It's the physiological consequence of being people living since thousands of years in the same
Yeah.
continent, interacting, and we had already greatest experiences. Roman Empire, sacred Roman Empire in the Middle Age, for example. I mean, we have been an example for the whole world. And that's why I say it's so curious to see. This decadence, it's really like destroying, showing us that we need to destroy everything that we have distorted, manipulated in the last two and a half centuries. Okay, that has been made during the modern age, and that we see now that the end of those projects, of those tentatives, were a disaster. They are
Um,
a disaster, and now it's
Lorenzo,
collapsing.
we're almost out of time. We've got about half a minute left. I want to thank
Yeah,
everybody who joined. If you have any questions, and thank Lorenzo. If you have any questions for him, or any comment, put it in the comments. I'll make sure he gets them. Thank you again for joining. I know you've got a class that you gotta go teach. So that's so what
yeah,
about seven I guess in Italy right now. Yeah.
yeah. It is.
Yeah. 1 hour difference. So okay, so thank you everyone. Um, and we'll be switching off here in a second so the timer runs out.